welcome everybody to the season opening edition of the ATB NFL Live Show. We made it this week, guys.
We're
Almost didn't
back.
happen. I would say it
Finally.
was my fault if we didn't do the freaking season opening week. It would have been my fault, but we're good. We're here, so we at least didn't miss that. That would have been pretty embarrassing if we missed that one. But we are here to talk about all the games, at least in some capacity. There's some games we probably won't spend a whole lot about Washington, but we are going to talk about all of them to some degree, and especially we're going to kick it off because we probably want to touch on the season opening, of course, right? Kansas City unveiling their banner, all the fanfare, all that stuff, welcoming the Detroit Lions, who a lot of people have expectations for, and we do as well to a certain degree. And the game, unfortunately, I mean, obviously, I think pretty much everybody feels this, but the game ended up being more about a particular former Giant than it was anything else. We'll lead off with this. I'll start with Tony here. Have you seen a wide receiver have a more tangibly negative impact on a game in the last 5 years than Kadarius Toney had in this season opener?
No, I've never seen anything like it. I think the PFF stat he has the lowest grade for a receiver. I think in the PFF era, I want to say
It's at least the last 5 years. I think
good.
is what they said. I don't know if they went all the way back, but at least the past 5
truly
years.
one of the most devastatingly terrible wide receiver performances we've seen.
Yeah, I'll get your thoughts here in a second, Zach. But I got to start with the fact that he legitimately looked like you asked a high schooler to go out there and play in the NFL. Like as far as his ability to try to catch the football, like he was getting open. That's why he was getting the football a couple times. He had opportunities to make plays, and he legitimately looked like he didn't know how to attack the football in the air. And I just don't. I don't understand how we're at this point with him because it's not like last year he couldn't catch anything. He didn't play a ton, obviously, for the Chiefs, but he did make some plays. I just want to know, how does an NFL wide receiver who has all the talent that he has, how does he go out there and literally drop a pick six, essentially? He literally handed Brian Branch, good for him, but didn't really have to do a whole lot. Handed him a pick six, which was the difference in the game ultimately. The Lions offense, despite Chris Jones' absence, wasn't particularly good. Goff took care of the football for the most part, but that's really about it. Montgomery ran into a wall most of the game, but got enough yards to kind of turn things out. The Chiefs lost this game. It was not the Lions going in there and just establishing their dominance or anything like that, which would have been great to see if it was the case. But you kind of have to come away with this, look at this game thinking, man, Lions got it done, but the Chiefs really need to be sure that they can trust him and other receivers because no one else really made plays very often either. Maybe the biggest plays was by the rookie receiver that even I was concerned might not be that good as a rookie. So I don't know. What do you think, Zach?
No, I think at least for the Chiefs, this basically cemented the fact that yes, Patrick Mahomes is awesome, but the Chiefs have a three-headed Cerberus. It is Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and Chris Jones. Those three players are the most valuable players for the Chiefs. If they are missing one of those players, they can probably get away with it because a two-headed dog is still kind of scary, but a one-headed dog is just a dog. And they only had one.
That is a nice line. I like that.
That was beautiful, poetic.
I love it.
I was literally thinking about it on the car the other day because I was like, I mean, they still are a terrifying team. And actually, I want to give Detroit a little bit more credit because for what it is, their defense played fantastic. And for what Detroit was last season, they came in, they established, like you said, they only scored 14 points, but they were not one for an early start. They've always they've always had a very slow start to the season. I see them come out like that. I was telling all of my coworkers, I was like, yo, it's either going to be a 3-point Chiefs win or the Lions win. Cause I don't see it happening any other way.
Yeah, I think despite the fact that, again, the Lions didn't necessarily go into Arrowhead and truly beat them down or they needed some help from, again, the Chiefs receivers specifically. But this is going to be huge for their morale because this is, like you said, a team that, despite Dan Campbell being beloved, has not started off well in any of his seasons. It's been a slow burn to get to the point where they feel comfortable, they get into a rhythm, and then they do start to play very well. They do look like a playoff team. If they could just be average in the first half of the season, and they continue that hot second half streak that they've been on. They're really the anti-Cardinals in that way, where we all know the Cardinals under Kingsbury, whenever they were healthy at least, would start off, 7-1, 8-0, or whatever it was, and then down the stretch, teams just figured them out. And it feels like it's the opposite way for Dan Campbell lines, which is really what you want if you're going to have that like kind of Jekyll and Hyde performance. You want it to be in the second half.
You just have to make sure that the start comes soon enough so you make the playoffs.
Like 3-5,
It's 1-0, baby. It's a great start.
right? Like if you can just be average, I think they're going to be comfortably in the playoffs by the time the NFC playoffs roll around. But
yeah, I really like that you could see them like as the game kind of really right on the drive they tied it up in the or took the lead in the fourth quarter. You could see them truly like believe. They're like, oh yeah, we deserve to win this game. Like we can do this.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's not a feeling you see teams have against the Chiefs late
Very
in the fourth
little,
quarter
yes.
of a close game.
Not
So that speaks to Dan Campbell and his ability to motivate the team, get them to believe in themselves. It was cool that they a lot of the things you see in a typical like team hung around the Chiefs but ultimately didn't get it done is like the self-imposed mistakes, like the fumbles and the not converting on a fourth down regardless of it being a good decision. Those things happened and they still survived it, and that was another really cool like, okay, the Chiefs aren't like 100% unbeatable. Like you can make mistakes and still come out of it alive. That's exciting for the rest of us AFC contenders.
And the other thing that I will say is I did not see or hear much of Jack Campbell's name, but
he did make one unbelievable
one
pass
insane
breakout.
play.
Yes.
Chalk up a check mark for week 1 for the first 4 picks of the Lions draft because they all contributed in some like very like good way. I mean, and my big shout out, Laporta.
Yeah.
Impressive.
Very
It takes a
move.
long time for tight ends to come into the league, and if you can do it season 1, whoo.
Yeah, again, we expected and that was the problem with the class for them. For me, it was like I was confident all the players they drafted are probably going to be very good. It's just will it matter at the end of the day in terms of their pursuit of winning a Super Bowl? And that's obviously a ways away from us finding that out, and maybe several years before we really know that. But they all definitely made impacts, and obviously Branch had the pick 6, but it was more so Tony doing that. But he made the play. He took and this is the thing is if you have an opportunity to make a play, especially as a rookie for this team, you have to make it. And at the end of the day, he did. So, but speaking of rookies, the first game of the season we're going to talk about here: Texans and Ravens. Rough start for CJ Stroud. This is a rough first game to go after trying to play the Ravens. So I will say the preseason start for Stroud did get me a little bit concerned just because, again, this is a rookie, you throwing him in there against the Patriots. I shouldn't have been surprised by the way he looked because they could not pass protect at all. We know the Patriots are very good at dealing with rookie quarterbacks in particular. But overall, I was still pretty promised by some of the stuff we saw later in the preseason from them. And I think this offense can be at least good enough around him to allow him to kind of grow throughout the season. But this is a tough first matchup. What do you think, Tony?
Yeah, so I don't have a ton for this one. I think it's going to be a pretty don't have to watch this one, not going to stress it out kind of game. Yeah. The Ravens are a much better team. The offense, I think, is going to it's going to move really well. It's going to have the explosives. I don't think it's going to be as perfect as it will be later in the season. Yeah. But I just don't see the Texans offense having a chance against Mike McDonald and his defense. He was the D coordinator at Michigan when they first beat Stroud, and he really knows how to beat him. And they're going to have a great defense this year. So I think the Ravens are going to win this one pretty handily.
Yeah, what do you think, Zach?
Oh, I mean, yeah, you're talking about the first game of Lamar Jackson back in Baltimore. This offense is about to go nuts. I hope CJ Stroud has a good performance, but the offense is one thing. I don't know how well this defense is going to be able to Ryans is a fantastic coach, but it's going to take a couple years to get that unit together. And this, like you said, this is a hell of a first draw for both Stroud and Ryans as the first game that they're going to be there for the face of the Texans franchise. So I wouldn't necessarily get too down on him, but it's going to be bad.
Basically, the spread is almost 10 points for a reason, right? The Ravens historically are dominant in week 1. You talk about I don't want to bring this up, Zach, probably bad memories, but week 1 of Lamar's MVP season, whenever they absolutely shredded the Dolphins through the air. They have a history of doing this type of stuff.
It's okay. We got
week 1 of Lamar's rookie year. They beat us 48-7.
Yeah.
But didn't he not start his rookie year though? That was Flacco.
No, he didn't. It was Flacco. Yeah. But I just wanted to.
Well, yeah, but that's okay. It's okay. We got our get back last year. It's fine.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, they just decided not to cover anybody at the second half. No, but so no. Anyway,
Take advantage.
Yeah, basically, I'm not hopeful for the Texans winning this game, but you're hoping that they can show some stuff and be a little bit more competitive this year in general. Bengals at Browns. Now, this one is very interesting to me because the Browns are a completely new look team, right? So they're going into the season, a full season of who shall not be named as the quarterback of the team, which again, probably going to be at least a little bit better than he showed last year, but I'm not confident he's going to be significantly better.
The
Their
preseason didn't look great.
defense, yeah, their defense is theoretically stacked across the board for the most part. Going to be very hard to deal with that pass rush with Garrett and with I can't think of his name right now. I just had it in my head. Zadarius Smith, right? So that the pass rush should be very good. They're bringing in Dalvin Tomlinson to help with the D line too. Like everything the Browns have done theoretically is smart, makes sense. But it is the Browns, and there's an element of that they have to kind of shake free. And I think this game at home, if they can't beat a team that Joe Burrow did just sign his new contract and he looks like he's ready to go, but he's still probably not 100% from what I've seen. He's probably not going to be fully 100% ready to go. So if they can't win that game, especially if they don't look good, it's gonna be interesting. So what do you think, Tony?
I didn't give a score prediction on the last game. I'm gonna attach those to all of my little blurbs now. So gotcha. 28-7 Ravens over Texans. But
okay. Yeah.
Like you were saying for this game, there's a lot of pressure on Cleveland to look good this year. I don't think it happens. I'm pretty low on them this year.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a secret to anybody. I have them going 7-10, and normally I wanted to pick the Browns in this game because of the Bengals historically have started slow under Burrow, right? Like week one, they have a ton of turnovers. They look really bad. Everybody's like, oh my God, it was just a flash in the pan. And then they turn out to be really damn good.
Yeah, it just works itself out.
The vibes with Joe Burrow just signing his contract and being healthy now and the receivers and the fact that Jim Schwartz is going to bring the heat but not do anything to change it up on the back end. So Joe Burrow's just going to dice him up. I have them winning 23-17. I think that Cleveland will at least make it a fight, but the Bengals are a much better team.
What do you think, Zach?
Yeah. As long as Burrow is actually healthy, ready to come back, which I mean, like we said, it seems like he is. And that contract, geez.
Good for him.
Yes, good for him. Very interesting to see what happens in the next couple of years with the rest of the quarterbacks. Hell of a season for Tua this year.
$60 million is coming, guys. Per year is coming.
So, look, the Browns, outside of like the whole quarterback situation, like it's a very, very solid roster. It's always weird to talk about the Browns because of that situation. He didn't necessarily look great in preseason either, which like I know it's preseason, but I'm just hoping at some point possibly DTR comes in because he was looking fantastic.
We are a DTR centric podcast, guys.
Yeah, he's already the backup. But I mean Nick Chubb is going to do his thing. It's going to be a close one because I can't imagine this being a blowout. But I definitely feel like is Mixon's fine. He's playing, right?
As far as I know, yeah. I don't see
okay, yeah. There's nothing that ever came up with that.
No.
Okay.
He's good. Yeah.
I hadn't checked any of that. I was like, whatever. Yeah, no, the Bengals are going to win this game. They should win this game. They should come out. Like we said, there's the slow starts, but hopefully it's a bit quicker with how things have been going.
Yeah, I agree with the Bengals being the pick here. I think that they're determined to go on the road and show that this Browns team is not what they're cracked up to be. And I think that in general, I agree with that, right? I think that they're at least a year away. And I think kind of putting this all together, they're definitely going to show improvements, and especially defensively. But I just think that offense is still questionable to say the least until we see what Watson can actually do. And I'm not confident about his ability to do that at this point for a multitude of reasons. But until we see that change, I'm not going to be willing to pick them over a team like the Bengals. So I'll go 24-20 Bengals in that matchup as well. Moving on to Buccaneers-Vikings. The reigning fraudulent kings, the Vikings, who managed to, as famously, 13-4 record with a negative point differential. I want to remind people of that. The most outlier of outlier seasons pretty much possible. Yeah, I got to give him credit for getting it done, but we all know what was coming once the playoffs started. Anyway, I think that this is an interesting matchup solely for the fact that I want to see if this Vikings defense against an offense that clearly is not, especially with Baker Mayfield a quarterback and questions about Mike Evans long term there now, like is this defense going to be able to, against an offense that does have its question marks, look at least better than it did last year? And I have a lot of questions about that, but that's the thing I'm most interested to see. The Vikings offense is going to be good. Like it was last year, it's going to be good this year. They have arguably the best receiver in the NFL on their team. And they just signed a tight end that for a lot of money, but he's very good as well. Like there's a lot of positives on the offense, but for me, it's all about the defense. What do you think, Tony?
Yeah, I think you're right that the defense is the concern with this team. No issues with the offense. I think the defense is going to be chaotic, and it's gonna have its own explosives, but it's going to give up explosives. I also think that I don't expect the Bucks to be good, but dropping Baker into another like McVay type scheme, he looked pretty good last year on short notice. I think the offense isn't going to be as terrible as I've been thinking with the weapons they have. Mike Evans in his last year with something to prove. So I have the Vikings winning but not covering. I think that they just have more offensive firepower and will survive it. So I have them winning 24-20, but a closer game than I initially thought when I looked at it on the schedule.
Gotcha. What do you think, Seth?
Yeah, no, I agree with that sentiment. I mean, like we talk about how the Buccaneers are going to be bad, but like Baker Mayfield is a serviceable quarterback, and he's throwing to Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. Like it's not like he's, and I mean Cooper Kupp was playing last year when he was there, correct?
No,
but that's
he was.
Oh
he was
no!
out at that point. He was throwing to like Van Jefferson.
Exactly. So like he's
things.
actually getting like two established receivers as long as Godwin can stay healthy. Not that I think that it makes. I mean, and that's the other thing is they still have a lot of their defensive pieces. So I definitely agree that Tampa Bay is going to make this a game. I just don't see where Minnesota's offensive game plan is just too like fine tuned to like not take this hit and not win this game. But I like these are not cover kings. So we're gonna so I'll probably have it like 23-20, 24-20. I agree with you, Tony. It's gonna be like right in that small like little tiny area.
Yeah, for me, I am taking the Vikings here. They're at home. Two, again, I like the offense more. I will say I'm warming up on the Buccaneers a little bit in terms of maybe not being like a top 5 pick in the draft, possibly, depending on how well the defense holds up. But that offense was already not great last year, right? And like as much as Tom Brady was definitely kind of feeling the age finally, I think a little bit more than he ever has, he still is a better quarterback last year. I think Mayfield is now. So it's going to be tough for them to be more than like average-ish on offense. And so it's really going to fall on the defense to kind of carry this team to a few wins. So don't see it happening against the Vikings. They have a lot to prove after last year of rightfully so being called fraudulent. They want to try to beat the allegations, just let's say that. So
they're going to have to beat the Lions first.
Right, exactly. So, but I'm going to say 28-24. I think it's a little bit more high scoring. I think the Vikings put up some points and the Buccaneers can at least hold serve because that's what the Vikings do. They let people hold serve with them. Moving on to Titans Saints. In the pre-show, I called this the mid-off of the week because the Saints, despite their best efforts, are kind of mid overall as a team, and the Titans are very much trending and already did look that way last year. So, interesting things with this game. Obviously, we want to see, can Derrick Henry continue to carry the load for this team? Is he even going to have to? Tyjae Spears looked very fun in the preseason. So do they want to get him involved more? Do they want to take the load off Henry a little bit? What does this offense look like with DeAndre Hopkins being inserted? Does that help Traylon Burks, continue to develop and not have to worry as much about being double covered and things like that? And then with the Saints, is this Derek Carr thing going to work out? Is it going to allow them to win in the division, right? Like, can they at least cobble together enough, runs during the season to get where they want to go? So what do you think, Tony, with this one?
This one, it's going to be boring. I don't really care. Like I think the Titans are going to win because they have a coaching advantage. I think they're very similar rosters otherwise. The real interesting thing for me about this game is just figuring out what these offenses are going to look like, because I think there's a lot of question marks on both of them. Mm-hmm. The Saints running back situation isn't really going to iron itself out until Kamara's healthy, and we see that. But I want to see what their pass catching group looks like. Like how involved is Jawan Johnson? How involved is Jimmy Graham? Is Taysom Hill playing QB or tight end? Is Is Michael Thomas playing receiver, and is he playing it at the level that he used to play it at? Because that would be crazy. Is Chris Olave continuing his ascension? And like Derek Carr, pretty good vertical quarterback, should be able to unlock whatever the potential of this offense is. And then on the Titans side, a lot of other unknowns that I'm really excited to see. Like, how is Hopkins going to be used? How is Burks going to be used? Is he healthy? Chigakonkwo, like, is he going to be more than just a gadget play? And then the age cliff of Derrick Henry and the injection of Tyjae Spears into the offense. Like, I think there's a lot of really interesting things to learn for the rest of the season from this game, but I don't expect it to be like incredibly exciting to watch as it goes. I do think that the Titans are the better team with the better coach, so I have them winning 23-18.
Fair enough. What do you think, Zach?
I am on the exact opposite page. For the first time in a long time, the Saints are healthy on offense, and that destroyed them last year. They were missing like piece after piece after piece after piece after piece. The only outside of Kamara's suspension, the only person that they don't have is Traquan Smith, and that really is either hit or miss. I think the bigger thing here is I think the Titans are going to have a tough time with the defense because I have they lost some stuff in the middle, but you still have Cameron Jordan. You still have a great linebacker room. I don't think it's going to be that easy for the Titans to just run over. And then that's where we talk about the debut of Hopkins. Is it going to be an immediate, like, oh, he's jumping right back into football. He's ready. He's good. Let's go. And then, if you're forcing them, the Titans to pass, I'm a lot less hyped on them. I do agree with the coaching advantage because I would much rather have Vrabel than Dennis Allen. But I think the Derek Carr thing is actually going to work because they played this weird whatever last year with like, oh, we love Jameis, but no, wait, we're going to go with other people. And there's like a clear dedication to Derek Carr with this whole offense. I think it's going to, I think they're going to win the NFC South. So
Yeah, so I will say for me, the question I have with this is with the Titans offense, right? We kind of know the Saints defense, if healthy, is going to be very solid. The offense should be at least a little bit better than it was last year, although Carr didn't really play that much better than Eddie Dalton did, if we're being honest about it last year. But again, theoretically, he should be a better player for that system and be able to make it work, especially since the Saints are relatively healthy, obviously, on offense. For me, the Titans passing game is the biggest question mark, I think. One of the bigger question marks in the NFL because adding Hopkins tells me that they are very much interested in trying to build that offense back up as a passing offense. And I think with Hopkins, even though he's not the same player that he was, he gives a lot of answers to the test to say a phrase there. Like, I think he gives Tannehill somebody he can really go to on got to have it third downs. He doesn't have to trust Traylon Burks or Chigakonkwo, who I do think are going to have good seasons, but I don't think they're ready to take on that type of responsibility to be the go-to guy. Hopkins can fill that role for this year and still be a productive player for them while they try to figure out what they have in the young guys, right? So I'm still going to give the edge to the Titans in this situation. I just like them a little bit better at this point in the season, especially. But it's going to be close again, like 21-17, I think is what I had as a prediction.
Oh, I didn't. 24-21 Saints.
Gotcha. Okay. Panthers Falcons. Now this one is super interesting for a lot of reasons. The teams that I think the two of us or the three of us are most interested in the NFC South, even though again, Zach, you mentioned about the Saints probably being the winner there. We'll see how that plays out. But these two teams are the most interesting to me for really a lot of different reasons. One, you have a rookie quarterback with the Panthers, who's first overall pick. They went up to go get him, and I think personally, rightfully so. But we'll hash that out as the season goes along. But they're a defense, like with their defense, they're hoping that they can make the next step up here. Brian Burns' situation is a little bit weird. We'll talk about that. But Panthers overall, I think, are a really solidly built team despite having a rookie quarterback, which is kind of where I'm at with them. And then, of course, the Falcons is this ground and pound, Bijan Robinson-centric offense with Desmond Ridder, who, again, not a super huge fan of personally, but can they make that work, and can the defense, with all the additions they made, kind of get closer to that league average level and allow that offense to thrive? So what do you think, Tony?
I am really, really excited for everybody to be put on notice that the Falcons are winning this division.
Okay.
I'm really excited to see them play football because I've been all over them all off season.
Yeah, you have. Yeah.
I think they're going to be a good team, which is plenty good enough to win the NFC South.
Yeah.
just looking at, I think the Panthers, I think the story is going to be that people are down on them after this game. I think there's going to be a lot of questions, probably too many, but I think the offense is going to look really bad, and we're going to hear some bad things. Mainly because the offensive line in the preseason, and I was giving the offensive line their flowers like off season, and then I saw them play, and like Ike Ekwonu not picking up where he left off. He's picking up below where he started. And the rest of the offensive line didn't look all that great either. And then pass catching wise, injury report. DJ Chark out. Adam Thielen questionable. Terrace Marshall was on the injury report with a back all week. He's playing. Amir Smith-Marset was on the injury report with an ankle all week. He's playing. That's Jonathan Mingo is going to lead this.
Jonathan Mingo.
It's going to be the Jonathan Mingo and LaVisca Chenault show.
Yeah, like that's a really bad place to be, and especially if the offensive line isn't good. And Miles Sanders is healthy, but he was coming off of an injury. And then I think the Falcons defense loaded up on talent. TBD what it looks like, but it loaded up on talent. And I think the back end coverage is going to be good. Jesse Bates is going to have a field day with a rookie quarterback. And then you got like guys like Calais Campbell on the defensive line just eating. So I think this is going to be a Falcons like masterclass. I'm saying this. The score prediction is not that. It's 21-13. But I just think that they're going to look like a much, much, much better team. The offense, I think Desmond Ridder isn't going to have his best game. Still a lot to figure out for that. But the run game is just going to be excellent, and they won't really struggle too much with the game.
Gosh, what do you think, Zach?
So. Like we just said, the biggest issue here for the Panthers is who you throwing the ball to, and that's going to be
to know that. That's
going to be a problem with all the injuries. And then on the Atlanta side, I mean, you basically have a rookie quarterback in Desmond Ridder starting this year, but I mean, he has a little bit of experience. I mean, it's going to be a 2-team race between the Saints and the Falcons. Those are the two teams that I have been looking at all offseason as well. The pick for Bijan just made a lot of sense, even though they still have Tyler Algier and Cordero Patterson. My big concern for the Falcons as well is you've got Drake London and Mac Hollins. What's your plan after that? Because I mean,
Kyle Pitts, baby.
Well, okay, so that's 3 guys though. I mean, you got Scott Miller. Kaderil Hodge, is that how you say that?
Yeah, Kaderil.
Yeah, I think he's on the injury report though. I don't know.
He's
former Browns receiver, I believe.
Okay, and then Josh Alley, Penny Hart is on the injury reserve, but they literally only have 6 rostered wide receivers.
They're gonna play 2 tight end sets the entire time, right? Like Kyle Pitts and Jonnu Smith being on the field gives you 2 more receiving weapons. Okay. They're gonna load up that way, go heavy, and try to get guys vertical. So it's not great weapons, but I think that it fits what they need, especially against a team like this.
Yeah, for me, I am higher on the Panthers than most, but I do not expect them to win this game. They're going to the Falcons. The Falcons do have the advantage in terms of health and weaponry, and I do think it's going to be tough for the Panthers early on until they figure out, who should be out there at wide receiver, who's the best playmakers for the offense. I think defense is going to be totally fine. I think the Falcons aren't going to be very productive offensively in this game, but they won't have to be probably, like you mentioned, Tony, between the injuries that are already happening with the Panthers and just the newness of everything. It's going to take them a while to get going offensively if they do it all this year. So I'm going to say Falcons 17-14. I think it's going to be very just running out, not at all a shootout. You're going to see a lot of run plays, a lot of just probably if there is passing, a lot of play action off those. It's going to be a lot of that stuff. And I think it'll be enough for the Falcons to win, but it is going to be pretty close overall.
How excited are you guys to just watch Bijan Robinson play?
Oh, in general, yes. I don't really care.
After watching Jahmyr Gibbs play, oh, yes. I can't wait.
Yeah, exactly. Jaguars at Colts. So, debut of Anthony Richardson.
The lowest price tickets of the week.
Oh, yeah.
$37.
Not at all surprising.
No,
if you are looking at ESPN, this will surprise you. The most expensive tickets this week are Packers at Bears.
Hey, it's the first non-Aaron Rodgers season starting.
$200 is the lowest ticket price.
Hey, they want to see Justin Fields, right? You want to see him run around.
Soldier Field has a lower capacity, right? I'm trying to make sense of it. There has to be some reason, right?
Supply and demand, babe. No, but no, the Jaguars and Colts.
That's crazy.
The story here is really, two things. One, Anthony Richardson makes his debut in the NFL. Just so curious to see what that looks like in a full season, like a full game capacity, because it could be spectacular. It could be completely inefficient and just nothing happens. It's so there's so much variance there that it's just really interesting to see how that goes. And the Jaguars, can this be the first step towards true, like last year they had obviously a great season by their standards. Can they really get up into the thick of it in terms of being considered one of the top teams in the AFC going into the playoffs, not just getting in, sneaking in like they did last year, but truly dominating their way through the regular season? This is going to be a test to a certain degree. I mean, obviously they get the chance to play rookie quarterback, which is usually a good thing, but we'll see how it goes for the defense. The offense, I have very little questions about. Adding Calvin Ridley, bringing Evan Ingram back on the deal they did makes a ton of sense. Like everything about that, totally good with. It's really going to be, can this defense take a step up enough to like help out their offense, kind of in the same way that some other teams are hoping that will be the case this year. So what do you think, Tony?
Yeah, I think you're right that the Jags, they have to start dominating games like this to be taken really seriously.
Yes, it's going to be
they play a first place schedule in the AFC now, right? Like they belong, but they have to beat up on teams like this to really belong. So yes. I think they're going to do it. I think that their defense is going to struggle with the run concepts. I don't think the Colts offense is going to look good, but I think it's going to get explosives.
Yes.
So I have them winning 31-20. Like you said, no questions about the offense. I think we're going to remember how good Calvin Ridley is at football. I know he took a year off. That's usually a bad thing. He wasn't rehabbing an injury, right? Like he was just focusing on football. I think it's going to be explosive.
Oh, he was real focused on football, all right.
hey, he knows he's not allowed to do that anymore, all right?
He knows. It's okay.
I think we're going to see like a Josh Allen, Steph Diggs year one triple crown potential. Like it's going to be good for the Jags offense, and I think it's going to show in week one.
What do you think, Zach?
Getting Calvin Ridley is going to be huge because they did lose some of the wide receivers that they had last year that were like kind of like getting them some of the extra passes. But you still have Christian Kirk. And then obviously the Travis Etienne was playing fantastic last year. They got Zay Jones. They've got a roster. They have a fantastic roster. It's just, will everything on the defense come together and, as you said, be that actual like support system? I think we've seen it the opposite way for a lot of teams. The two that come to mind off the bat, the Saints and the Dolphins, where it's like, oh man, their defenses have held in so long, but the offense is just giving them nothing. This is the exact opposite. Like your offense can go out there and do all they want, but if you can't stop the other team from scoring, that's going to make things just as more difficult. So I don't think it's going to be a problem in week one because it's the Colts. And I mean, I'm not expecting anything crazy from Anthony Richardson's debut. We've all talked about how raw he is. I don't think this game, no matter what happens, should put a negative light on him as a player, because that's the biggest thing I'm concerned about right now with his development is just him not getting the time. So the Panthers are not the Panthers. The Jaguars are definitely going to win. 35-21, 35-20.
I like it. So I am definitely going to pick the Jaguars. And I will say, wouldn't it be the funniest thing on the planet for the Colts, who cannot seem to beat the Jaguars recently, for it to finally happen when they start Anthony Richardson as a rookie against him at a home game? Very funny if that happens.
AFC South.
We can't blow up Jim Irsay's head like that.
That's exactly nuts. That is true. But yeah, I'm not predicting it, but it just would be funny. So I will say I'd take the Jaguars 35-24. I think the Colts offense is actually going to be relatively productive, but based mostly on that ground game. I think they're going to get a couple explosive plays, like you said, Tony, and I think Richardson's going to perform relatively well. Like I'm still not 100% sold on this Jaguars defense being anything special. Trayvon Walker has to show a lot. I think that's the guy that especially that they need him opposite Josh Allen to truly kind of break out in year two. And, he obviously has the physical upside to do that. We'll see if it plays out this year. But next game here, one that I have a stake in, of course, 49ers at Steelers. They go on the road to Acrisure Stadium. Still hate saying that, by the way, but whatever. 49ers are coming in with quarterback settled despite a lot of unsettled things coming out of that camp the whole offseason, but they do have their quarterback situation at least figured out at this point now. Nick Bosa signs his mega deal to return to the team, 5 years, $170 million, the highest defensive contract in NFL history. a lot going on with this team, but they do seem to kind of be settling in as the season approaches. And then, of course, my Steelers coming off a completely dominant preseason and really impressive offseason overall by the con artist. Gonna keep saying that. Gonna make sure that keeps going. I love that nickname for Omar Khan. But everything that the Steelers have done is so promising that it's a little scary to me because I'm not used to an offseason being this impactful for them. Usually, it's just we're just moving along. But so I'm cautiously optimistic. But what do you think with this game, Tony?
Yeah, I'm picking the Steelers upset. I think
I know you are. Yeah, you should.
I really do think so. I think it from both sides too. Like I think the Steelers are going to be a good team this year. I have them going 10-7 in my final predictions, not hitting the playoffs unfortunately, but I think they're going to be right there.
I'm not going to argue with you that much. Yeah.
Yeah, and their defensive line is absurd. Like it is so good. They're so good at generating pressure. They're so good at playing the run. Their back end is scary, but it's devastating if there's an injury. We're early in the season. There's not an injury. That they still have Minka out there, right? Like that's all you need. So I think that Shanahan's going to put a target on the linebackers, right? Because they're not bad, but they're just not like great. Mm-hmm. But I do think that Brock Purdy probably isn't as good as he looked last year, and I think that's going to be shown a lot in week 1. I have it being low scoring. I think they're going to win 17-13. I just think that the 49ers offense is going to really struggle if Purdy doesn't get the freak lucky plays that he was getting a lot of the times last year. And I think the defensive line of the Steelers is going to be able to cause a lot of havoc against what shouldn't be a very good offensive line for the 49ers.
Yeah. What do you think, Zach?
Yeah, I actually, I think this offense train is going to continue into the regular season for the Steelers. I think they're going to score a bit more. And I do have the same concerns about San Francisco and Brock Purdy, not because like that's the thing. Like there were so many passes even in the playoffs where it's just like, what? This shouldn't be happening. You should not be able to be getting away with this. So I'm really hoping that the season of tape and everybody having it now is going to be just like, oh hey, no, we've got this figured out. This is a 7th round draft pick. Let's make the 49ers realize their mistake. So I think it's going to be more like 28-17, 28-14 in that area. I think the Steelers are ready for a little bit of an explosion.
Yeah, so I'll just obviously since Steelers fan, I'll kind of chime in for a little bit longer here, but my whole thing with this game is the Steelers have shown, especially over the past 2 years, that the opponent they play in week 1 does not matter. They are up for week 1. It doesn't matter if they're significantly worse than the team they're playing, which they have been realistically both times. Unfortunately, Tony, about the Bills game that happened a couple years ago.
Aware.
Very aware of that. Thank you, Miles Killebrew, for that game, by the way. Still on the team. Nice. And then obviously the Bengals game last year where Joe Burrow just was chucking up balls to us. Granted, he got his get back at the end and almost still won the game, but he was just chucking up balls to Minka Fitzpatrick and everybody else. He was just handing them out like Oprah. It was insane. So
you get an interception.
Exactly.
Literally. Get an interception.
Literally, Zach, is how it felt. I was watching the game like I cannot believe what the hell is happening right. It was insane. But the Niners are obviously a very, very strong team. Arguably one of the best in the NFC, of course, based on their track record the past couple of years. But, and you guys touched on a lot, Brock Purdy has to show that what he did last year is sustainable. And I just don't think that it is. And I think a lot of people don't think that it is. It doesn't even mean that this offense isn't going to still be very good. It is a Kyle Shanahan coached offense. Like a lot of bad stuff has to happen for this offense to be a bad offense, especially with all the personnel that they have. However, going into Acrisure in week 1 against a Steelers team that is just about as hot as you physically can be coming out of the preseason, has all this momentum in their way. Now, I'm not a huge momentum guy, but like the optimism, the fact that the offense under Kenny Pickett looks a lot more explosive in the preseason, is more willing to be explosive. Because I think that's part of the problem here, guys. Is Matt Canada has looked at this team the past couple of years and been like, you know what? Slants, outs, that's what we do. Outside, like throw the ball in the middle of the field. Okay, like that is all I harped on last year. We saw a little bit more of it this year. Tony knows about the strike down the middle of the field on the seam to Pat Freiermuth in the preseason game.
It was pretty.
Like exactly, like that is the type of stuff that if they can execute that a little bit more, it doesn't have to be a ton more. Like this offense needs to score 4 or 5 more points a game last year, and they were a playoff team. And I think that's the same case this year with the defense coming back and even stronger than it was last year. The secondary does scare me a little bit. I do wonder how much Peterson has in the tank. I wonder if Levi Wallace, love him, great. He is a very average corner too in this league. You wonder if he can hold up long
There's
term.
a ceiling there.
Yeah, I want to see Joey Porter Jr. play a significant amount in this game. I want to see if he's ready to go against an offense that's a little bit more unorthodox. He's not going to have to deal with a lot of true deep developing routes or go routes because they do want to try to do a lot of the crossers and stuff. I want to see if he can hang with that stuff. There's a lot to look for in this game, but I am picking the Steelers as well. I'm going 24-20 specifically, and I always like to do this for the Steelers. I think that they will be down 17-20 in the fourth quarter. Pickett leads a touchdown drive to go ahead with a couple minutes left. And Purdy trying to make a play, can't make the throw. Minka picks him off. Game over. That's how I'm predicting the game to go. We'll see if that happens. Moving on. Cardinals at Commanders. Pass. No, we'll talk about it for a second. But no, so I will say I'm a Sam Howell semi-believer. I've been kind of the guy in my friend group that's like, he might be all right. I don't hate the tools. I think that he could do some stuff. And again, it's against the Cardinals, so we might see a decent showing from that offense because of who they're playing. But does anybody really care that much about this?
Around me, yes.
Well, yeah,
around
of course.
Me,
there's
yes.
optimism with Washington because of just who isn't currently owning the team. That is, I will give them that. I'm happy for that entire metro area. Awesome. But this game specifically, even just who they're playing kind of dampers it a little bit because oh great, if we beat the Cardinals, God forbid, good.
I argue it
for
doesn't
us.
because I think they're just gonna unload. This is a team that's been waiting for a long time, and I think they finally put some pieces together. As long as the defense shows, that's the biggest question that they have is if the defense shows up like they should with the talent that they have on the roster, they should run Arizona out of the stadium.
Exercise some demons, you think, Zach? Just kind of get rid of the last.
They should be careful in the tunnels, though.
Yes, they
yes,
should
be very careful around the stadium.
Walls tend to fall.
Yeah, things tend to break.
Be careful.
No, but as long as Terry McLaurin's okay, they're gonna. And Chase Young's out, of course, for week 1. That's funny. But yeah, no, and it looks like his designation is gone. So no, if they're full balls to the walls, offense is all good to go. Yeah, no, it's gonna be bad. It's gonna be bad.
You got a score prediction for that one, Zach?
38-10.
Ooh, I like it. Okay, Tony, giving me your little spiel that you probably have.
Yeah, I'm not all that high on the Commanders this year. The vibes are great. They have a lot to be excited about. Don't let whatever happens this year get in the way of that. Sometimes you need to break apart to get a new coach and to really rebuild. I do think they're going to win this game without much trouble, but the offensive line I think is so bad that even this Cardinals defensive line can get disruptive off of it. I'm a bit worried about Terry's toe, but I'm excited to see what Jahan Dotson does. I hope he gets featured as the guy this game, and they let Terry come up kind of slowly. I think the Commanders are going to win 16-3. Their defense isn't going to have issues shutting down whatever Josh Dobbs or Clayton Tune-led offense can do, but I think that their offense isn't going to look all that excellent. I wouldn't be surprised if one of those was a defensive touchdown too. But
the fact that we're talking about Josh Dobbs and Clayton Tune starting is the epitome of a tank job.
Do not disrespect former Steeler, bald head man himself, Josh Dobbs.
Oh, former Tennessee Volunteer.
Yes,
astrophysicist.
Exactly. Oh. Yeah, do not disrespect the man, the myth, the legend. No, I don't know. I'm going to predict that Washington wins the game by an undetermined amount of points. That is a lot. That's all I'm going to say about the score. I have no idea how many points either team is going to score. I just know that it will be much more for Washington, probably. That's all I'm going to say. Raiders at Broncos. So Russ didn't cook last year. He burnt. Can he get to air fryer level? Maybe you can cook somewhat. You can sort of I think people who cook it with an air fryer, they say they can cook, but they're only kind of saying a little bit sort of cook. You know what I'm saying? That's kind of where if you can get to that level.
I hope my girlfriend isn't watching right now because she watches every single one of our shows.
Whatever. Listen, if my girlfriend's definitely not watching, but if she's listening, she might be here right now. She knows that I'm talking about her probably a little bit. She knows that. No, but I think that the Broncos are a better team than the Raiders overall. But I'm really curious to see if Russell Wilson can at least get back to like, I don't know, not being a problem. Like he doesn't have to be the answer. He just can't be the reason they lose, right? I think that's really what Sean Payton's hoping they can get him to. And losing Tim Patrick in the preseason sucks. I wanted to see him in this offense, and just the whole receiver group is a little bit iffy just for different reasons, whether it's injuries and consistencies. But defense, I don't have a whole lot of questions about for them. I think they're going to be a very good defense. And the Raiders, however, just not good, guys. Like I just don't like almost any of it. We kind of touched on that when we did the AFC West. Like I'm just not a fan of really almost anything that they're doing at this point. But what do you think, Tony, with this game in particular?
I think that the offense in Denver is going to look pretty good.
I think it's
Not
gonna be
like
fine.
not great, but I think pretty good.
Right. I think it'll be fine.
I think Russ has been humbled to the point, mostly publicly.
Dude,
Sean Payton's
Stop
really
kissing
going on the.
babies.
Yeah, he's
Sean
like,
Payton's
no,
dude, stop.
you're
it.
not running for president. You're a quarterback. Like, reel it in.
What the
I think
shit,
that
man?
Russ cares way too much about his public perception to not hear that and take that and heed that advice, especially when it's coming from Sean Payton, a guy he idolizes. So, like, I think we'll see Russ just dial himself back and become just a cog in the offense. And that's good for football. I think that the weapons wise, like they're depleted right now, but Cortland Sutton playing a very like not great version of the DK Metcalf role, and then Marvin Mims taking over in the Lockett role. I think that's
Mims,
very, very
we like
exciting.
Mims here.
And they still have Jerry Judy.
Yeah. He is healthy now, right? Like I don't know.
I think he's playing. I'm pretty sure.
I'm not
I never
counting
know
on
with
him being a part of things, but it's definitely a plus if he is.
Yes. Yeah.
And then like the running back room, I think they built off the offensive line to be a run first. That's how they're going to approach this season. So I think things are going to go well for them there against a putrid, terrible Raiders defense. I think the Raiders offense is going to look good until injuries start to pile up throughout the season. So like you have Jimmy G with a healthy Devontae Adams and a healthy Josh Jacobs. I think that you're going to have a sufficient offense, especially with Josh McDaniels play calling. I think injuries will make that deteriorate quickly, but for week one, it's fine. I do think Denver will pull off the win 24-21, but I expect some decent football to be played.
Yeah. What do you think, Zach?
I think especially what's come out about the coaching quality from last year in Denver, if that's actually true, I could see a massive bounce back from Russell Wilson, because like if the offense was run that poorly and there was just no sort of like direction, then yeah, it kind of makes sense why it looked like it did last year. And that's where we go back to what was the biggest thing about the Broncos last year. Bet the under, because they might not score points, but guess who also isn't scoring points? The other team. So that defense stays pretty much intact. Jimmy G's just a guy. Like I'm very interested to see what happens in a place that's not San Francisco. And I don't know if that was possibly covering up a lot of his weaknesses, because we really haven't seen him play much anywhere else. And I mean, it is Kyle Shanahan. So like you said, Shayne, it's the whole idea of like, I don't know what the Raiders are doing right now. So like when I watch them play football this year, I'm just going to be like, what is your goal? Are you guys trying to win? Are you guys trying to see if you can build something out of this roster? Or is it just going to be a tear down and like, oh crap, the Jimmy G experiment didn't work. Get rid of everything. But they don't have the money to do that. So like, what are you doing?
Yeah, it's tough for me. So I will say with the Raiders, I think their offense, assuming everybody's healthy, like you said, Tony, it's going to be okay. It is. Like McDaniel's not a bad play caller by any means. I just think that he's a sometimes limited one because of the type of quarterback he prefers. Saying like it's basically the worst version of Kyle Shanahan in my opinion, where like the quarterback situation holds them back, but only so much because the play calling is good. I think if Jimmy Garoppolo was going to have a chance to play at a starting level anywhere in the NFL other than San Francisco, it is with McDaniels. So like I get that part of it, but again, is he going to play 10 games even? Is he going to stay healthy long enough to really determine if this was a good move or not? I don't think so. I think we see Aiden O'Connell at some point, most likely. And I'd be kind of excited for, because I like Aiden O'Connell a little bit. But in general, I think that this game in particular, the Broncos definitely have the advantage being at home. They have the stronger defense by a mile. And I think the offense is going to be good enough to, at least not let that what happened to them last year where they scored 15 points, the other team scored 16. Like that, I don't think is going to happen in this game. So I'm going to go 24-21 as well. I think that was your score to 220 for Broncos there. I think that makes a lot of sense. Dolphins at Chargers.
Game
Zach,
of the week, dare I say.
I'm just going to go ahead and let you kick
Is
this
it
one
is
off.
it the game of the week anymore if we don't have our roster?
Yeah, well,
that puts a damper on things, but it's up there still.
I'll
No,
let
you guys go first, and then,
Okay,
I'll
okay,
wrap
all
it
right.
up at the end.
Well, in that case, then I feel like I'm gonna let you go first, Tony, just because I don't even want to talk about this game because I know I'm gonna say some wild stuff probably.
Yeah, so I've said it on record. I'm super high on the Dolphins this year. I am still super high on them. I still think they go 11-6. I make the playoffs. I think they're an excellent team. Not having Terran Armstead for week 1 sucks. It really sucks because I was really excited for this week to be to confirm my priors, right? Like I was ready for the week 1 victory lap. I thought that the Dolphins were going to win this game. I thought things were going to look great, and the reason I think the Dolphins are going to be great is because I think they've developed a counterpunch to what teams found how to stop their offense last year. And this was the defense. This Brandon Staley-led defense is the one that initially stopped them. So I wanted to see them come in week 1 with the counterpunch, beat them, run down their throats, and put everybody on watch. I still think that they are going to be really good in this game, but I can't ignore that I also feel really good about the Chargers and how they're going to be. And their offensive line is in a better spot. The Dolphins' defense is banged up, as we know. I have the Chargers winning 24-23. I originally had the Dolphins winning 24-23. You see, I think this is going to be a toss-up, and that injury does kind of change things a bit for me, but I think this is going to be the best, most entertaining game of the week. I think these are going to be two of the most exciting teams to follow this season, and it's a treat to have them on the week 1 schedule, even with Terran Armstead out for the game. Kendall Lamb played really well in the preseason too, so if he can step in and play well, then the Dolphins are in a good spot.
Yeah, he definitely played well. So you're hoping that Tua doesn't get killed at least. And I think for me, ultimately, at this point, because I think the Dolphins' injuries is going to be pretty impactful early in the season, especially Armstead missing week 1 and the defense not being at full strength at the moment. I do think they are going to get to a point that, assuming Tua stays healthy, which with all the work he did in the offseason, I will say I'm less and less worried about it as I see him. I will say that. So I'm hoping that is the case. I do not want to see him get hurt. I want to see what this team can do with a full season of him. But if that's the case, obviously in week 1, I think they are going to struggle a little bit offensively. I think it's going to be tough with Armstead out. I think that this Chargers defense, even if they do have that counterpunch, Tony, I do think they are the defense last year, outside of the 49ers game, obviously, as well, that really gave them the most trouble, right? Tua definitely didn't look comfortable, and I think that's still going to be that way a little bit this game. I just trust the Chargers offense this year way more with Kellen Moore. I think that they're going to be able to outscore teams more than they ever have been able to before if they need to. I do hope the defense doesn't put them in that position as much anymore. But if they do, I think they're better equipped to deal with that. And at this point, with the health and the home field advantage, even though the Chargers might have the weakest home field advantage in the league, depending on who you ask, I'm going to give them the edge as well. I'm going to say 27-24 Chargers.
All right.
All right, let me speak my piece.
Here's the thing about Terran Armstead. Yes, he's fantastic. He needs to be on the team. However, I do believe that this team has finally realized that no, he's going to miss half the season. It's going to happen.
As he
you would not want it to happen in week 1, obviously, but you never know when it's going to happen. Dude's in his mid-30s. The defense is healthy outside of obviously Ramsey, which we already knew, and Nick Needham. Those are the only 2 really big question marks. I'm fine with that. If that's all that we were talking about. I'm more scared at this point of the fact that we're going up against a team that has a ridiculous linebacker group, a ridiculous front 7. I'm not ready for that. And I also agree 100% that if you thought the stuff that came out this offseason about Tua doing jiu-jitsu and all that stuff was like stupid and whatever, go watch the preseason, because you could see a distinguished difference of how he was falling down and moving his body as opposed to last season, and literally just like the hit that he took in the Buffalo game where he literally smacked his head off the ground. That's not happening again because he actually has learned how to fall. It sounds stupid, but when you're getting into a car accident pretty much every play, you have to learn how to maneuver your body with the physics.
Yeah, absolutely.
I got too hot takey at work this week, and I said that Tua learning how to fall was more important to the Dolphins than trading for Aaron Rodgers was for the Jets. I don't even know how much I believe that, but it came out of my mouth.
I would agree because
if he doesn't get
trading,
hurt, you're right technically, Tony.
Yes, because so here's the thing. The change for Zach Wilson obviously is major, but if anything, what the Jets needed to do more was invest in their offensive line. And that is still going to be an issue. If that's an issue this year, then you're 100% correct. If Tua can stay healthy, that is the bigger thing because, yeah, they got the flashier quarterback, but what did it mean as far as like, oh shit, we didn't like do anything for the rest of our team. Like we just rolled with what we had last year. And we're like, all right, cool. Yeah, give me Aaron. But no, so I don't like predicting week 1 wins. It's really hard for me, especially when it's against the Chargers. So I'm very concerned. But I do think the defense is going to take care of business. And hold them back. It's going to be a close game. I am very much in the 24-21 either way. I can't pick a winner. It's going to be a good game. Yes, the Taron Armstead thing sucks, but I do think that it's starting to get a little overplayed because he is going to miss games. That's what when they brought him here, that's what they knew was going to happen.
Yeah, and I think that's part of it too. I will say with that game, the Chargers are probably going to win just because they have to give us something, right? They have to give us a reason to hope for them, and then they can take it away later in the season. So
why don't the Dolphins have to give us something?
Hey, listen, they got to the playoffs and like almost beat the Bills.
That doesn't count.
That was something. That was something. All right, Zach. The Chargers had like one of the worst playoff losses in NFL history last year. They have to build up some good faith so they can take it away again.
They just have to score.
Chargers fans know that. Yeah, Chargers fans know that. Okay. No, so Eagles and Patriots next. Eagles at Patriots. For me, this is all about can the Eagles replicate on offense what they did last year without Steichen there. I think his play calling and his feel for that was a big reason why the offense was so efficient. I'm not expecting them to take any sort of like significant downturn offensively, but I am curious to see kind of how that looks. The running back rotation, although there's a lot of really talented guys, I'm curious how they use those guys, and does someone kind of elevate themselves to that true RB1 spot, or is it a true committee? That's going to be interesting to see. No real questions about the offensive line, even with losing Ciamalo. I think that they'll be just fine at guard. I think Cam Jurgens is slated to start at right guard at this point, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
I think he is. I hope that changes and somebody else gets the job.
Me too. I think Jurgens is a center. He's a center.
They have Cam Jurgens and then Tyler Steen behind him.
Yeah, Tyler Steen. They just drafted him in like the 2nd or 3rd round this year. That's who I would like to see there eventually.
Guard, yeah, I think he could be a better guard than Jurgens right away, honestly. But anyway, so I'm not super worried about the offensive line though. Overall, I think that they're strong at the other positions, and if you only have one true weakness, you're going to be a top 3 offensive line, right? That's kind of how it is in the NFL. So I'm not really worried about there. The Patriots. Honestly, the only thing I've been so curious about this preseason is like why they just keep like flip-flopping backup quarterbacks for some reason.
They had none on the roster.
They had none. They had Zappy, the practice squad, and Corral, and then they just elevated Zappy and cut Corral. Like I don't know what they're doing, but in general, with the Patriots, we know their defense is going to be insane. Probably, it's just can having a true offensive coordinator actually on the team make a big enough difference to get this team back into contention again. I have my reservations about that, but yeah, what do you think?
It's the wrong week for them to have that question be answered.
Yeah, it's not a great draw, even though you're at home. But
no, because we can have some concerns about the offense with the change in coordinator. I don't feel it's when you have this amount of talent on defense, though, because they did also lose their defensive coordinator. I don't think it's as bad because like you got like 11 dudes out there that are just going to destroy it no matter what's going to happen.
You didn't lose like a great
no. I think that you at worst
you lost your D coordinator and upgraded or a lateral move at worst.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. I think it's a push at worst.
And I think that's the bigger story for this game because we talk about how the Patriots can dispatch certain quarterbacks with their defense. I think Mac Jones is going to have a horrible afternoon, even at home against the Eagles, because It's the Eagles. It's the Eagles NFC to lose right now. I mean, there is no other team that I can sit there and be like, oh man, like maybe if Purdy comes in week 1 and he does show some stuff, I could be confident about the San Francisco 49ers. But this is Eagles have this pretty much like we said with Kansas City last year. I don't feel confident about any other NFC team being able to like comfortably be like, yeah, no, they're above them.
Cowboys
Yeah.
1 seed per my final season predictions.
Right. Yeah, we know. Yeah, we expected that. No, but what do you think, Tony?
I'm surprised the spread is so tight on this game. It's like 4.5 or so.
I think it's
and
4, yeah, or whatever. Yeah.
That's just surprising because the Eagles are a much better team. I expect the Patriots to be prepared and to show up at least, like, and to make it harder on the Eagles. I think the Eagles will have to play a fourth quarter, which is something that they didn't have to do all that often last year.
No, they did not.
I think they're going to have to do that a lot more this year, right? Like they're not going to, like, they're still going to win a ton of games, but they're going to have to play more fourth quarters.
Probably.
So I think that the Patriots offense is going to be able to move the ball despite all the talent on the Eagles defense. I think they're going to take advantage of the newness. They're going to have a cohesive offense that they understand, and like that matters so much. I think you might see some explosive plays. They're good at designing those, and they always pull them out against the good teams too. I think that the Eagles offense is just going to be overwhelming, though. Jack Jones is out for this game. Christian Gonzalez is a rookie in his first game. There's the pass rush is great. The defensive line, it's going to be good, but I think you can still take advantage, especially when you have the talent the Eagles offensive has. Their Patriots defense struggles against running quarterbacks historically, so I just think that they're going to take over eventually. So I have them winning, the Eagles winning 27-20, but I do expect the Patriots to give them a little bit of a fight.
Yeah, I think the main reason why the spread is where it is because there's a lot of respect on the Patriots defense, and there should be. I think that it doesn't really require the Eagles to score a ton of points to win, but they might not score a lot of points, right? So I think that's where the spread kind of comes in. You know, when you have a defense like the Patriots have and coordinated by the guys they're coordinated by, it does kind of help with it multiplies a lot of the factors there in terms of trying to prevent points. So you hope that the Patriots can at least make it a game because I think this could be a fun game if they can, you know, offensively. But I'm going to take the Eagles 28-24. Actually, I think it's going to be about that spread is what it ends up being.
Second most expensive tickets of the week.
Interesting. Well, Eagles, you know, going to Foxborough.
Yeah. $180.
Patriots fans show up.
Yeah, they do. They do. They have to, right? They have to keep up the facade, right? Now, so, Packers at Bears. One of the more interesting week 1 matchups for a lot of reasons. I'm obviously watching, does Justin Fields with a actual like surrounding cast offensively this year for the most part, can he become the passer that I believe he can and that he was in college as far as accuracy and his ability to throw the football down the field? Like, can that show up in his third season now that he has a DJ Moore and hopefully Darnell Mooney being healthy and paid Cole Kmet a decent amount of money? So hopefully he does more. I don't know. It's weird. It's overall, I think that's the biggest question mark here, other than the other starting quarterback.
Okay, I was going to say, oh my Lord.
And Jordan Love, can he keep the succession going? Do I think so? No. But can he at least be a starting caliber quarterback? I do believe in him in that sense. I just wonder, with Christian Watson out, you know, can he get the offense moving well enough against the Bears defense? It should be at least a little bit better this year. And can they stop the attack that the Bears have created offensively? What do you think, Tony?
I'm really excited. I have a lot on the line in this game, just in terms of like personally.
Okay.
I think the Packers are going to be pretty damn good. I have them winning the division at 11-6, and I have the Bears going 5-12. So like it could look really wrong really fast for me with the result of this game. I think the Packers really do need Christian Watson. It's scary to do this without him because like I like Jaden Reed a lot. I think he's going to get a lot of run in this game, but he's not the same downfield burner that Watson is. He's not opening up the offense the way that Watson does, and I think that's going to be a big miss. But they're going to run this game through their running backs. They've got great running backs. They got a good offensive line. I think they're still going to hit their deep shots, and Jordan Love looks good. The reason I think they're going to be so good is because I think he's going to be very good.
Yes.
And he seems aggressive, which I like because for a young team, like that's a good mentality to set. defensively, I think they're going to be really improved. A lot of the same personnel, and it's really good personnel. It's just been misused. There hasn't been a change at coordinator, but it sounds like there's been a change a bit in philosophy where they sound more willing to be aggressive. The players have spoken out about how they're excited to be less passive this year. I think that's going to do well for them. It might get them burned a bit more, but they're going to be a much more competitive defense, and that's going to do wonders for the team. So. I think despite the Christian Watson injury and missing the game, I still think that their offense is going to move the ball enough, and their defense is going to do pretty well to shut down the Bears offense, which I don't expect great things out of. So I've been winning 20-14, and the Bears really struggling to get anything going offensively. I don't see things all that optimistically for them, unfortunately.
All right, Zach, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I'm very excited to see Jordan Love play, and so is my dynasty team. That was a hell of a grab a few years ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, they looked fantastic in the preseason. He's just been sitting waiting, and sometimes, you know, they there's been this change of like, oh, you draft a quarterback to start immediately, and sometimes it works. If the quarterback is that good, sometimes it works, but the idea that that's like the end all be all, there are times where I'm like, maybe Tua could have used a year to sit down and actually not start the whole year and be embroiled in all that, because like getting that experience and getting that like exposure to the actual NFL game really changes things. And I think that's one of the things you're seeing with Jordan Love is he was just able to kind of like step in and be like, all right, I kind of know what I'm doing. I haven't actually done it, but like we've been doing it in practice. I think I know what to do. And they looked fine. Now, I agree. The Christian Watson injury is very concerning. And you would want to have all your weapons, but you still have your running backs, you still all of that. It's more so, I think the growing pains for Chicago are going to be a lot worse because that's, I feel, a lot more new as opposed to them putting it. I guess the difference in plugging in one quarterback into a system as opposed to plugging in all the weapons into a system, it's going to take more time for the weapons to develop the chemistry than for the one quarterback to come in and be like, okay, well, you guys already know what you're doing. I just got to throw it around. All right, we're good.
Fair enough. I will say that the Packers, I do think, despite going on the road, do have the edge here. I think their roster is still just a better roster overall. I do believe in Jordan Love as well. But I really do believe in Justin Fields this year. I do think he's going to be able to take a step as a passer that kind of solidifies his place as a starter long term for them. Does it happen week one? It's not as likely. I do think that both offenses are going to look very good, though, in this game. I do think it's going to be like a 28-24 type of game. I do expect that. Now, Bears defense, again, I think they'll be a little bit more competitive, but I don't expect them to take a huge leap or anything like that. They didn't, other than adding Tremaine Edmonds, they didn't do, and also the linebacker from TJ Edwards, like they didn't do a ton necessarily to like as far as week one impacts to improve the defense. I think Tyreek Stevenson is also going to be a really good corner eventually, but again, rookie corners are hit or miss. It's going to be fun to see how that plays out, though. But I'm going to say 28-24 Packers. Okay. Rams Seahawks, right? This one, I really want to talk about the Seahawks a lot, but this isn't the game to do it. I don't think. I think that Stafford being back adds an element of variance to this offense because who knows how good he is still at this point or how well he can play with all the injuries he's dealt with. But Cooper Kupp ain't playing. And that means he has to find somebody to throw to. That he wants to throw to, which he sure didn't seem like he wanted to throw to most. Yeah, right. He sure did. Yeah, the whole situation. I feel bad for him a little bit, honestly. That was kind of sad to listen to. No, but I think with him, it's about can he get comfortable with any of the receivers that he is going to have at his disposal. I just don't. I don't know, man. What do you think, Tony?
Yeah, like you said, like I have a lot of thoughts about the Seahawks. I don't expect to learn a lot with them this game. I have them winning 35-17. I just think that they have a very complete team. They're going to come out swinging. They're going to come out to prove that last year wasn't a fluke. And the Rams are in a different spot, as we all know.
Yeah. What do you think, Zach?
Very high. I mean, the Seahawks had a hell of a draft. Added a lot of fantastic pieces for their team overall. I mean, Devin Witherspoon is going to be incredible right out. I mean, he's going to be fantastic for the defense.
Personally.
Jackson Smith and Jigba is going to add much more to the offense. But then I think
by the way, which is crazy.
The biggest one, though, I'm so excited to see Charbonnet play because I think, one, it's going to be fantastic for Walker because it's going to let him not have to have the full load. I think that kind of like was wearing on him towards the end of the season. And that's just that's what they do. They split the load with their running backs. I'm really they're going to be a great team again this year. I'm excited to see what happens. I hope the Rams can figure some stuff out and see what they're going for in the future here, because I don't see many more seasons with Matthew Stafford at the helm. Because I'm surprised that they didn't do something this season with the direction.
Hey, don't discredit the national. No, we're not.
I mean, more so
I'm not doing that.
I'm surprised that they didn't try to trade him somewhere else. Like,
I don't think anybody wanted him, Zach. I mean, like, even if he plays, I mean, last year he didn't show a whole lot, and he is older and an injury risk. Unless you bring him in like as a backup to have variance in case your starter gets hurt. Like, I don't know if there's really an upgrade there.
I just don't see the positive.
He would upgrade a lot of teams. It's an injury risk, but he would upgrade a lot of teams.
Theoretically,
I just don't see the direction of the Rams throwing him out there for a season, because like you could probably use that to look at other options and other ways to possibly develop somebody for the future. Like you said, we're not going to learn a lot about either team from this game, because it's probably going to go exactly the way we think and like sit with everything. So, I mean, Seattle's going to win. I'm not concerned about that. Probably like a nice 30-point dub, 35.
Yeah.
35-17, maybe.
Yeah, I'll keep it short and sweet. Rams aren't good. Seahawks will probably score 30-plus points on that defense unless Aaron Donald goes freak mode, which is always possible, but I don't think he can do it by himself. That's all I have to say. Seahawks are just better. Cowboys-Giants. Oh, well, Tony, let me go right to you, because you kind of dropped a little, not really a bomb, but you dropped a little bit of a bomb on us a minute ago talking about the Cowboys. So what do you think?
I don't think that's absurd. I think the Cowboys and Eagles both go 12-5, and I think that the Cowboys win the tiebreaker, and get the 1 seed because of that. So this game, honestly, like if the Cowboys O-line is as injured as it sounds like Tyron Smith and Tyler Smith neither are likely to play.
That's tough.
That lowers the score prediction for them, but the reason I'm so high on them is their defense, and I think the Giants' offense is going to be fine, but I think it's not as dynamic as the top offenses in the league, and it can be shut down, and I think that happens week 1. So I have the Cowboys winning 17-15. I don't think they cover now because of the offensive line injuries, but I still think they win.
What do you think, Zach?
Saquon is there, right? He is playing, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know if he was going to hold out and like actually.
No,
he got the little bonus incentive.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Okay, yeah, that's right. So yeah, then I'm not as low. I'm not as worried for the Giants. Like if they want to compete, they're going to have to beat some of their rivals. Like they're going to have to steal a game from Dallas or Philadelphia if they want to go back to the playoffs. I think for them, the big thing right now is Wan'Dale Robinson isn't there. And like, he was really good for them last year. That's going to be a little bit of a, like, I wish he was out there for them. But like you said, the defense for both teams are looking fantastic. This is going to be a very like head knocking game, one in the trenches, who has the upper edge. And that could be where if the Cowboys don't have some of their guys along the offensive line, the Giants front could really, really take advantage of that. And again, it's not like it's like a team that they don't come across every time. These two teams know how to play each other. They've been playing. Dak Prescott has been playing against the Giants for a while. So if they can, I could see a possible upset. But I don't want to call it because that seems wild. The Cowboys, I feel like, have much higher expectations for this season. It's going to be a good game. It's going to be a fantastic first Sunday night football game. Yeah.
All right. For me, I'm just going to say that if Darren Waller is healthy and plays, I think that the Giants offense will be able to do enough to win this game at home. I think that they are going to split with the Cowboys, and that's what I predicted when I was going through some games earlier. So I think it comes here at home, right? I think that especially with the Cowboys offensive line ailing, Dexter Lawrence is going to eat. He got his money, and he is a force.
Hungry.
I think he's going to be a big factor in the game, and hopefully the edge rush with Thibodeau also can get things going without Tyron Smith out there. So I'm going to give the edge to the Giants at home. I'm going to go 24-21. I think it is going to be a bit of a slugfest, but overall, I'm going to give the edge to the Giants, mostly just because I do expect them to split with him or with the Cowboys. All right, so last game, big one for Tony here, big one for the AFC East, big tone setter Monday night, Bills at Jets.
9-11.
Go ahead and Tony, do you
in New York? No, I mean that
Zach,
they literally scheduled this because of that.
I bet. Tony, do you want to go first or last here?
I can go last. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I'll
just kick things off then here. So the Jets are at home, right? They're debuting none other than Aaron Rodgers, the quarterback. Breece Hall has a healthy designation. Doesn't even have an injury designation going.
Many of my fantasy teams are excited to hear that.
Yep, mine as well. I drafted him in I think the 8th round of draft because everybody's afraid to draft him. Yeah, I like it. Yeah, zero running back strategy.
Jeez.
Fake. I call that one the fake zero running back strategy because of the situation now. But overall, I think that the Jets obviously have a lot of promise. They have a lot of optimism around their team. But until proven otherwise, the Bills have been, and I still think will ultimately run this division at the end of the day. Them coming into New York is definitely tough in general. It's certainly a losable game. Even they managed to do that last year as well. I think that the Jets overall are going to be a really good team this year, but I feel like the Bills especially want to prove and have something to prove here that they are still the best team in the AFC, or the AFC specifically. I'm going to give them the edge. I'm going to say 27-24. I think Josh Allen has a big day. I think Stephon Diggs is able to get away from Sauce Gardner and have a good day. I think that they're going to be able to still get some plays on that secondary, as good as it is. And overall, I'm expecting them to come out and kind of just try to set the tone for this division. What do you think, Zach?
Yeah, if Von Miller was available and the front was entirely healthy, oh man, that offensive line is a problem for New York, and that would be would be the deciding factor. They still have, like we talked about in the AFC East wrap up, the deepest line that I think there is. But yeah, I think Buffalo wins this game with no problem. There's still going to be some growing pains for New York. I mean, we heard it throughout Hard Knocks. Rodgers wasn't the biggest fan of his receivers the entire time, and he's like, "Yo, y'all making dumb mistakes. Get it the fuck together. Like, what's going on?" And so, I still think some of those, it's the atmosphere is going to be insane, and that's I think the biggest advantage for New York. But I don't think Buffalo is going to be able to not deal with that. They've been in much worse situations.
All right, Tony, lay it on us.
All right, yeah, not going to disagree with you guys here. I was actually plan all week was to pick the Jets to win this, even though I don't really feel it, just because I've been down on the Jets. I acknowledge that they're probably going to be better than I've given them credit for.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to beat a lot of teams late in the season, so I might as well give them credit now. But thinking about it, no, I do think the Bills come out and win this game. I think it's a really tough game. I think it's a really close game.
It is tough.
I have the Bills winning 21-17, but the key areas that I think really matter to me, the Bills offense is going to do work. The Jets defense, of all defenses in the league, give them the most trouble by far. I think that is more amplified later in the season once you have a lot of film to collect and Robert Saleh can really work his craft. Week 1, we have a new defensive play caller and we have no tape on it. I think that
offensive play caller.
All over the place. Offensive play caller. Ken Dorsey, year 2, he's not learning the job anymore. He's learning the counter punches. Similar to why I think Mike McDaniel is going to come out swinging in the second act. So I think we're going to have a better shot to go up against that defense. And then on the other side of it, this is where Sean McDermott taking over play calling matters for the defense. It's less predictable too. Leslie Frazier's defense was so predictable last year. I don't think that the Jets offense moved the ball well against it, but it was able to move the ball with the likes of Mike White, Zach Wilson, enough to win a game. And I don't think that happens again. If Zach Wilson comes in, they're not beating us. So I think the defensive line of Greg Rousseau, Ed Oliver, Daquan Jones, Leonard Floyd can light up the Jets' offensive line situation.
They're still
But I
very
think that
good,
they can still get points because we've already seen Aaron Rodgers and Garrett Wilson have that like mental connection. Expect to see that. Like,
Yeah.
that's where we're going to be susceptible. The cornerback two is Christian Benford. It's going to be a rotation of Christian Benford, Dane Jackson, and Kyrie Elam. All of them beatable by elite players, and you have elite players. So I expect the Jets offense to have its moments, but struggle because of the offensive line. I expect the Bills offense to struggle, but get into the end zone more than they were able to last year because they just were able to work on it all offseason without the Jets defense collecting tape.
Yeah, I think overall, like I said, I think we kind of agree that the Jets are going to be a solid football team this year, pretty much regardless, just because of the floor of the defense, and the offense at least cannot be worse than it's been with Aaron Rodgers quarterback. It really can't. Even Zach Wilson is probably a better player now than he was going into last season, so even that would still probably be a better version of what they have. So I think it does come down to whether the offensive line can handle even a depleted Bills front. Can they still handle that well enough and put up points? And overall, I think it's going to be, again, a really fun Monday night opener. I think it's going to be a really good way to kick the Monday night season off as far as the games we'll see there. But any other major thoughts you guys want to lay out before we get out of here?
Just the football's back.
Yeah. Everything's delayed right now for college. Lightning hit the Notre Dame scoreboard.
The Notre Dame scoreboard
got shorted it out. Yeah,
that's crazy.
Oh wait, no, that game's in Raleigh. It's
yeah. NC State. Oh, so the NC State scoreboard. Yeah, my bad.
Yeah, I know a few people at that game.
Virginia Tech's in a delay too. They're getting hammered right now with rain.
Huh. Interesting.
Makes me think that
God knows we need it because it's so hot. It's been 97 all week. I wanted to die.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'll let you guys get out of here. We'll see you next week with our reaction to kind of how our week one slate goes. We'll try to spend more time, a few minutes on that every show, just talk about where we were wrong, where we weren't. But I'll get back to you with next week's games next week. And we'll see you guys next week. Enjoy the season. Enjoy the football this week.